Hello, Journalholics. It's your boy, Ahoyprinceton, with a JoJo Part 9 discussion slash theory about Part 9 villain and possible plot. But before I get started, make sure to like that button and hit that bell icon, or I'll torture dance you all day. This series will have a popo-sized spoiler, so if you are not caught up in the manga or are a anime-only watcher, I recommend you stop right now.
It's time to stop! It's time to stop, okay? No more! Where the fuck are your parents? Who are your parents? I'm gonna call Child Protective Services. It's time to stop!
Alright, so obviously Part 8 is still ongoing, but my theory will still have some merit even after Part 8 ends. I believe that the villain for Part 9 of JoJo is none other than Judas. Ah. You might be thinking, okay, well, hold on, Princeton. How can Judas be the enemy? Allow me to explain a bit. In Part 7, which is the start of the Steel Ball run, we find out about the Holy Corpse. It has been heavily rumored that it is none other than Jesus, or Jesus Joestar, as I will be making a separate video on this subject soon. The story of Part 7 is heavily advanced once we get to the Holy Corpse. The Holy Corpse is clearly the impetus as the stone mask was to Part 1, 2, and 3, and the arrow was for Part 4, 5, and 6. In Part 1, Dio and Jonathan were both intrigued by the mask, and that same mask is the reason that the events in Part 1, 2, and 3 takes place. You can even argue that the mask can go further than those parts. Just like in Part 4, we discover and find out about the arrows that Grant stands. That concept followed Part 5, 6 as well. If we are to go by Iraqi's pattern, then it will look a little like this. First act of the pattern, Iraqi uses what would be the said item. Just like Part 1 with the stone mask and Part 4 with the arrow, Part 7 will start with the Holy Corpse, which we know is exactly what happened very early on Part 7. The second act of Iraqi's pattern will have the second part have very little to do with the item from Act 1 until the end. Example of this will be JoJo Part 2 with a young Joseph. The stone mask was not important until the very end when he was facing cars. Same could be said about Part 5. The arrow was not important until the very end when Giorno was faced with an obstacle. Going by this pattern, we can infer that Part 8 ending will have to do with said item, the Holy Corpse. The majority of Part 8 JoJolion has had very little interaction with the Holy Corpse. Act 3 is when things get interesting in Iraqi's pattern. Act 3 is when things come full circle. In Part 3, the Crusaders only happen because Dio used the stone mask. Thus, he is alive 100 years later to get stands, which causes the plot to advance. If Dio never puts on the stone mask in Part 1 JoJo, there will be no Part 3. Same could be said about Part 6. If the arrow was never introduced in Part 4, then Part 6 future parts would never happen. So, that means that Part 9 has to come full circle with the Holy Corpse. For me, that will make the story full circle. Could be a flashback to both Jesus, who might be a Joestar, and Judas, who might be a Brando. I don't know. Having Part 9 explain the background of the Holy Corpse will bring the story full circle, and what better villain to introduce than the man who betrayed Jesus with a kiss. Imagine the anime version of Judas. Think of Judas like Cars, but way better and actually was a threat. Of course, in the Steel Ball run, we don't know how the events of Judas betraying Jesus took place. Iraqi could have fun and change the way the events took place, which I think will be pretty awesome. Judas could be portrayed as Jesus' best friend up until a certain decision that maybe Jesus made that made Judas do what he did. I don't know, at this point I'm just excited for Part 9. I would love for the main character of Part 9 to be introduced as a stand hunter that hunts stand users that misuse their stand, but comes across a person that has a piece of the Holy Corpse, thus making the new character have a stand. I just love to imagine a fight in possible modern day Garden of Eden. Imagine a fight with Johnny, Yosuke, and whoever the new character is versus Judas. I'm getting too hyped for something that is just a theory. A JoJo theory. Also, keep in mind that I think past characters that have died could come back. I mean, one of the redeeming things about Jesus was that he rose from the dead 3 months later, or 3 days later, not 3 months. So it's not far-fetched to be able to bring a character from the past back.
Yeah!
Well, that's everything I have today. Make sure to comment below and let me know what you think. Do you agree or disagree? I'm interested in hearing what you think. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.